Good morning. Good morning and welcome. Welcome to the Unitarian Society of Santa Barbara. Welcome into this loving community of seekers where we strive to live with integrity, nurture wonder, and inspire the actions that transform us and transform the world. It is good to be together this morning, whether you're joining us from the comfort of your home in our Zoom sanctuary, whether you are here in our physical sanctuary. Together we are one community, bringing more love into the world each and every time we gather. I'm the Reverend Julia Hamilton, and I am delighted to welcome you to this Trans Day of Visibility service. We have so many wonderful things planned for this morning, and I am so glad you are here. But of course, we have a lot of wonderful things happening throughout the week and throughout the season here at the Unitarian Society. So I want to extend a special welcome to friends and family and visitors. We would love to get to know you and help you get connected to the life of this congregation. So fill out our online connection card or join us after the service for coffee and tea and conversation. Stop by our welcome table and introduce yourself. Ask any questions you like, because we would love to get to know you as you get to know us. We have a fabulous event happening after the service today in our parish hall, our second Justice Cafe. This is an opportunity to gather with folks from our Justice and Equity team, find out more about the good trouble that they're getting into these days, add your voice and your spirit to the work, find a place where you can get involved and make a difference. So grab a cup of coffee, mingle for a little bit, and then head over to Parish Hall for the Justice Cafe. Make sure you read your April newsletter that's coming out at the end of this week, because there are so many things, I can't even cover them all, but I do want to highlight two. The first is because you're going to need a little bit of lead time. We have an open mic night coming up at the end of April. So if you are a singer-songwriter, if you are a poet, if you have a talent you want to share, brush off that ukulele, get the band back together, and talk to Ken Beiser about the open mic night. You can also talk to Matthew, our director of music, if you have any questions about what that's going to entail. And the second thing I want to highlight is coming up very soon, and we need your RSVPs because our Passover Seder is underway, and Julie Lope is going to share an invitation.
Hi, I'm Julie Lope. As Unitarians, we enjoy celebrating holidays from various religious traditions, especially those from our Judeo-Christian heritage. The Christian spring celebration is Easter, and the Jewish spring celebration is Passover. The first night of Passover is Wednesday, April 5th, fairly soon, a week from this coming Wednesday. And we're having a congregational Passover dinner in celebration right here in Parish Hall. Wednesday, April 5th, right here, 5 o'clock, Parish Hall. The Passover Seder or dinner retells the story of how early Jews were enslaved and gained their freedom. Passover is a celebration of freedom from slavery. This is an intergenerational family holiday with songs, games, and good food. You can either pay $20 each for each adult or $5 for each child, but no more than $50 total per family. Or those who bring a Passover dish will be free, so bring your dish. Not just your dish, but your dish full of food. We have wonderful recipes if you'd like to try your hand. Come see Nancy Beiser or me at the table in the garden during the coffee hour. This is a perfect event for the whole family with music and singing. You're invited to bring a short reading, a poem, a song, a dance, or art that expresses your own sense of freedom, social justice, and the joy of spring. Wednesday, April 5th, right here, 5 o'clock, Parish. Thank you.
And many thanks to Nancy and Julie and all of our Jewish UUs who are helping bring our Passover Seder to life here in this community. There's a lot going on in this congregation. There's a lot going on in the world and in your own individual lives. And so I invite you now to take a breath, to settle yourself, maybe to scooch in a little bit in the pews so people can find spaces to join us in the back there. Allow yourself to be fully present here together in this time as I ring our bell and let the sound connect us. If you're joining us at home, I invite you to get your chalice or a candle ready and maybe type into the chat where you're joining us from. Chalice is lit at in the name of your street or your town. And here in our sanctuary, our physical sanctuary, we're going to kindle our chalice together. And I'd like to invite Aaliyah, Cassia, and Quinn, 3 of our youth, to come forward to light our chalice this morning. You are welcome here. All of you, every part of you, beautiful just the way you are. Here you do not need to be something more or something less. No holding back, no hiding, no shame in shining your beautiful light into the world. You, all of you, have inherent worth. You have the right to dignity and joy, without anything to prove. Nothing to prove to me, or the person sitting next to you, or to the children, or to the elders, or to anyone. You don't have to try and be wittier, or more outgoing, or more quiet, or funnier. You do not need to do anything to be welcome here. You are fabulous and wonderful just as you are. Each and every one of you, different and unique, and yet united in this time of worship together. Let us kindle our chalice flame in celebration of all of the ways in which we shine. Each person who is a member of this community shines brightly here for a time, and today we have a second flame to kindle for a person whose life shone brightly in this congregation for over 50 years, and that is Pat Kruger. Pat Kruger has been a member of this congregation since 1966. She worked in the office for many years. She gave of herself generously and wisely and graciously so many times, and her legacy will live on in this community for years to come. So we kindle our flame of memory for Pat this morning, and for all of those who have made their home here with us for a time. Let us take a moment of silence to remember those upon whose shoulders we rest. Blessings on your journey, Pat. Every week here, after we light our chalice flame, we lift up something that brings more light into the world to remind ourselves that goodness abounds even in the most challenging times. And we call this our change jar, our change for the good. And we have an actual change jar over here. So if there's something going on in your life that's brought good change, go ahead and write it down and add it to this jar where we'll be collecting it all year round. You can add it to the chat if you're joining us online. But for our collective entry into the change jar, I want to lift up the fact that 2 new national monuments were created this week in our country. The Spirit Mountain area in Nevada and the Kastner Range in Texas. And in particular, I want to highlight Spirit Mountain because it was created specifically to protect the land sacred to several Native groups, including the Mojave, the Cocopah, the Quechan, and the Hopi. Native communities have been seeking this designation for decades, and it is only the 2nd national monument created specifically to protect land sacred to Native people, and that is change for the good. Let us now sing together number 1010, We Give Thanks. It's in the teal hymnal, so please rise in body and spirit and let us sing.
this precious day, for all gathered here, and those far away, for this time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day, for all gathered here, and those far away, for this time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day, for all gathered here, and those far away, for this time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious
Good morning, everyone. Before I introduce our very special guest today, this morning, I want to also let you know that following the service out in the garden, there will be tables with folks from PFLAG and SB TAN. So if you find yourself with questions about any LGBTQ issues or in need of any sort of support, I encourage you to visit them in the garden after. Plus, there might be some cool swag out there, so just saying. And now, it is an honor for me to introduce our very special guest this morning. I first got to see Miss Angel perform on my 60th birthday at the drag brunch at the Wildcat Lounge on a Sunday morning when I opted for cocktails instead of church. So, just saying. And I may go to Unitarian hell for this, but just once, skip church and go to the drag brunch. It's really fun. Don't go all at the same time, though, because we need some of you here. Anyway, story time with Miss Angel is a fanciful experience filled with laughter and stories. Miss Angel invites and welcomes the entire family to bring their happy minds and smiling hearts. I love that, happy minds and smiling hearts, and join in and relive their childhood, page by page, book by book, story by story. Miss Angel creates a safe and encouraging space for everyone. She is an author, an elementary school educator, and a curriculum consultant with a master's degree in education. She devotes her time reading to young audiences, performing and dancing throughout Santa Barbara. So look out for that big hair strutting around, and as Miss Angel says, lift your chin, hold it high, keep your head up to the sky, and say in a voice so wonderfully free, I am fabulously perfect for me. Please join me in welcoming Miss Angel for our Time for All Ages. And I forgot to invite, come on up, kids, and anyone who wants to sit on the rug. Come on up for this great story.
Good morning. Thank you for having me here today. I have three of my absolute favorite books, and I'm just ready for a good time today. And all of my books are about love, kindness, and joy, and I really hope that you find these in the stories today. So, the first story I'm going to read is called Red by Michael Hall, a crayon story. He was red, but he wasn't very good at it. Oh dear, says Olive. His teacher thought he needed more practice. I'll draw red strawberry, then you draw red strawberry. You can do this, really, said Scarlet. But he couldn't really. Like this? Oh my, let's try again. His mother thought he needed to mix with other colors. Why don't you two go out and draw a nice round orange? A really big one. A really orange one. But they made a big greenish one. Yuck. Oops. His grandparents said he wasn't warm enough. Your class is making self-portraits for Parents' Night. Wear this nice, warm scarf. It's so you. And look, it's silver and gray. But it so wasn't. Oh, dear me. Everyone seemed to have something to say. Sometimes I wonder if he's really red at all, says Amber. Don't be silly. It says red on his label. He came that way from the factory, said Cocoa Bean. Frankly, I don't think he's very bright. Well, I think he's lazy. Right? He's got to press harder. Really apply himself. Give him time, he'll catch on. Of course he will. But he didn't catch on. Green frog, a black sheep, a brown cow, red. All the art supplies wanted to help. The masking tape thought he was broken inside. This will hold you together. The scissors thought his label was too tight. One snip should do it. I thought he wasn't sharp enough. Stay still now. But even with all of our help and all his hard work, he just couldn't get the hang of it. One day, he met a new friend. Will you make a blue ocean for my boat? I can't. I'm red. Will you try? So he did. Thank you. It's perfect. You're welcome. It was easy. And he didn't stop there. Blue bells, blue jeans, blue bird, blueberries, blue whale. I'm blue. He was blue, and everyone was talking. My son is brilliant, said Olive. Who would have known he was blue, said Amber. I always said he was blue. It was obvious. His blue ocean really lifted me. All of his work makes me happy. His blue strawberries are my favorite. He's so intense. I'm going to make a green lizard with him, a really big one. And he really was. And that was Red, a crayon story by Michael Paul. That was one of my favorite books. And this next book I'm about to read is called Avocado Asks by Momoko Abe. And me and the author are getting to know each other, and they're really, really, really sweet, and they live in the UK. And this book, I recently purchased this maybe about 3 weeks ago at Papersource, and I just absolutely fell in love.
We are going to swap. That's right, that's why we're here, right? For some spiritual rebooting. Sometimes we just have to pause. We're working on a flashing light system so we can communicate with the tech booth up in the balcony, and right now it's flashing red. Thank you, Heather.
Herb, basil, chives, thyme, or a sausage. I know I'm not a canned pea or a bean. Avocado came to the fish counter. With their fins and scales, the fish looked very different, but it was worth a try. Am I a fish? Don't be silly. Avocados can't swim, said the fish coldly. You are not a fish. But what about a cheese? Some of them are round like avocados. Some of them had hard skin on the outside too. Am I a cheese? Asked Avocado. You are not a cheese. They smell a lot like feet though, thought Avocado. I'm pretty glad I'm not a cheese. Maybe I'm... No. Avocado was more confused than ever. I'm not a fruit, I'm not a vegetable, a fish, a cheese, or an egg. So what am I? Far from the fruit and vegetable section, Avocado was feeling lonely and lost. And that was when Avocado heard, "Hey, cheer up, amigo," said Tomato. "You don't know what you are. So what? Don't stew in your own juices. I'm a fruit, but no one believes me. And I don't care. Because I'm tasty, hot or cold. I make splendid salads and superb soups. People love me on pizza and adore me with pasta, and they can't get enough of my ketchup. And you, Avocado, you are the star of any salad. You're terrific on toast and tremendous in tacos. You're scrumptious in sushi, and your guacamole is so delicious that the other fruits and vegetables go green with envy. Who cares what we are when we are simply amazing," said Tomato. That was true. They can just go be themselves, and that was enough. Suddenly, Avocado didn't feel lost and lonely anymore. And that was when they heard, "Excuse me. What are we? Fruit or nut? Am I a weed? Am I a spice? Fruit or vegetable? Spoon or fork?" That and in my last book, I'd love to end any story time with this book because this book sends anyone and everyone off to have a beautiful day full of joy and just being your true, authentic self. And what I love about children's books is that they're not only for children, they are for everyone. And this next book is titled Be You by Peter H. Reynolds. You were born to be so many things. My wish for you, no matter where your journey leads, is for you to always be you. Be ready to take that next step towards being an amazing human being. Be curious. Turn every stone, ask every why, and keep digging deeply. Discover your own answers. Be adventurous. Live a big life. When you are ready, step outside your comfort zone, bravely explore new paths, and see where they lead you. Be connected. Find kindred spirits. Be with those that make you feel like the real you. Be persistent. Keep going, never stop. Keep going, never stop. Keep going, never stop. Be different. Be silly, be quirky, be odd, be unique, be weird, be colorful. Be okay with being different. Just be the way you are. Be kind, be understanding, help those around you to be themselves. Listen, then listen some more. Learn more about who they are. Be brave, try new things, take a deep breath and plunge forward into new experiences. It gets easier every time you try. Be your own thinker. Think for yourself and set your own unique course. It isn't always easy, but you'll be headed in the direction of you. Be okay being alone. Let me read that one more time. Be okay being alone. Take the time to be on your own. Hear your own thoughts, your inner voice. Listen to your heart. Be patient. Being more you takes time. Take a deep breath. Relax. Let your future unfold at its own pace. It will be worth the wait. Be okay with reaching out for help when you need a helping hand, a compassionate ear, an encouraging word. Reach out. As you voyage out into the world, remember, no matter what, you will always be loved. So you're ready, so go ahead, be you, be very, very you. Now let's be you.
Thank you, Miss Angel. And I am sorry that our 2 wireless mics worked. We've got some mics working now, but we are going to sing our kids out to their activities today. Please join us in appreciating the story time we had together, and have a great time at your religious exploration classes.
Wasn't that just great? So much fun. Now we're going to switch gears a bit. At the crack of dawn tomorrow, 8 adults and 3 youth from our congregation are leaving on a trip to the Hopi Nation to learn and be of service to the elders in the Hopi community. This will be the 6th Unitarian Society service trip to this part of the world, and each time our relationships there have deepened and our sense of interdependence is strengthened. Each trip is unique, but what is consistent is that the volunteers carry the love and goodwill of this congregation with them when they go. To help raise money for this trip, we sold raffle tickets for a very special prize, a piece of pottery made by the Hopi potter di Satella, which Julia is holding, which the lovely Julia is holding for you. Dee works in the traditional way taught to him by his mother and grandmother, an artist dedicated to keeping the Hopi culture alive in his work. And I'm going to invite our 3 youth up, because now is the big moment when we are going to pull the winner. Aaliyah and Cassia and Quinn, the 3 of you are going on this trip. And so you are going to help us choose the winner of this wonderful, wonderful prize. Reach her in.
Drum roll, please.
Oh. And the winner is, John Hartman. And I mean, everyone is a deserving winner, but I got to tell you, John Hartman and John's whole family really has done so much, gone above and beyond in supporting this trip. So I'm really excited that he's our winner. Yay. So John and Kelly, come find me after the service to take home your bowl. And now, will the rest of the travelers please come forward? Julia, Adam, Emily, John, Janice, Kier, Lorraine, and Craig, come and join the youth up here, please. What a team! Yes. Today, to light your way, we kindle a special chalice, a piece also made by Dee Satala. This chalice belongs to Reverend Julia and was commissioned by Adam, Julia's spouse, as a present for her several years ago. Dee made this piece specifically in honor of our Unitarian Universalist tradition, with traditional symbols that represent the elements of the earth, the life-giving warmth of the sun, and the connection between our communities. And so, kindled. And so, we kindle this chalice today in honor of the travelers from this congregation who are setting out on this journey, especially the youth who have worked so hard to make this trip happen, and in gratitude for everyone here who has supported this trip. We send you on this journey with our blessing, with the hope that you will travel safely, work hard, have fun, and return just a little bit wiser, with some good stories to share and with a renewed sense of kinship across borders. Our hearts are with you on this journey.
Thank you, Charla. I invite you now to take another breath, to settle yourself wherever you are, to attend to your body in this space, this shared community, as Kier and I share a prayer for the queer kids by the Reverend Laurel Littlejohn Gray.
When I Google prayer for queer kids, the first hit is all sin, asking God to force repentance for what I call holiness.
For what I call holiness. And so I yell, I swear and I rage, and I feel the heat of fury mixed with protection. Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. That thing they despise, I call sacred.
I call it sacred.
This being oneself.
In a world that suggests repentance with a tone of holier than thou damnation, no, not here, not in this house.
Not in this house. There will be no repenting for the courage to love honestly.
There will be no repenting for the courage to love honestly, for the ways your gender beckons you to bloom.
For the ways your gender beckons you to bloom. No, this is a prayer for the queer kids. A ring of fire protecting the Eden that exists inside of embodied love.
In this house, we speak only of the holiness in existing honestly, in living and loving fully.
My prayer for the queer kids is this. May you find the people who love you fiercely.
May the God of grace fill your lungs with life when people leave you gasping through tears. May you know in your bones.
May you know in your bones
that you can never be separated from all that is sacred, because it exists inside of you.
It exists in every gesture of love you dare to offer the world. A salve to the soul bruise of anyone who believes they are only somewhat worthy.
Anyone who believes they are only somewhat worthy. An act of holy defiance. You, my dear, are glorious.
You, my dear, are glorious.
You, my dear, are glorious.
Now,
just as you are.
Just as you are.
now and forever. Amen. Amen. And let the people say, it is my great joy to welcome a friend here to our congregation this morning. Lisa Gillinger, would you like to come on up and join me here? Lisa is joining us this morning, and we have two events happening in celebration of Trans Day of Visibility this morning, and next Saturday, the Santa Barbara Transgender Advocacy Network is holding a celebration here in Parish Hall to which you are invited. Lisa, come on up. Lisa, I got to know you through working together on Trans Day of Remembrance, and I am so delighted to call you a friend here in this community and welcome you to our congregation this morning. I know there was a little bit of a of a transition this morning because of the dates. But I am so delighted to welcome you to share a little bit of what Trans Day of Visibility means to you.
So first I want to apologize. I was supposed to be here for this. We were a little confused about whether it was going to be the Transgender Day of Visibility on the 1st or today. That's what happens when you're my age and you start to think about calendar dates and times and you can't remember your name. But I do want to talk about a couple things. First of all, what is a Transgender Day of Visibility? And I want to contrast it with the Transgender Day of Remembrance. Is anybody familiar with those two events? Yeah, some people. Good. So transgender, I'll start with Transgender Day of Remembrance because it's kind of the root where it comes from. I should mention also that I am trans. Everybody's like, yeah, okay, so. First I want to say the stories that we heard earlier, going on after stories like that, come on, I should have gone on before that. No, those are so sweet. And there are so many times when I was a kid, I was told it was a fruit, okay? And I don't think I was a vegetable or anything. I was more meat, you know. And, yeah. But it took me, I had to figure it out. There were no other trans people in the world at the time, right? I was the only one. It all came from me. It all started with me, and look what we have now. I've done my best with it. I can't do any better than it is. So, very, very early on, I found out that there was St. Christine. You know, Christine. Why can't I say her name? I can't remember anything right now. Christine Jorgensen. I was aware of Christine Jorgensen and that she had changed in some way. She had found a way to experience her gender correctly. Let's say. Time passed, and I started to learn about some other people. I found in drag, I found a place when I found out about people like Cochineal and Bambi, who are drag performers from France. I saw them, and they were very attractive, very provocative performers. Christine was a very clean person, and everybody could see, could watch her on TV. She was good enough to be on TV. You would never see Cochineal or Bambi on TV. They were so provocative. Right? They were sexy. And I looked at that and I thought, they have jobs. They actually can make a living performing. I was a total performer in those days. My mom recognized that I was a kid that had a lot of theatrical flair, singing and dancing all the time. Anyway, drag kind of saved my life because it said to me, people who are older than I am could find a way to make a living, express themselves, and be themselves in a way that was at least acceptable to some part of society. And that meant a lot to me at that time because I just wasn't able to find it pretty much anywhere else. So there are some people who would say, oh, drag, it's not the same as trans and all this other stuff. And we go like, maybe not, but it can certainly save your life if you are trans. Did for me. So many things did. I got a dog. A lot of things really helped keep my feet on the ground. Yeah, I have a bunch of dogs now. It's one reason why I'm here a little later. I was out in the hills walking around with dogs, communing with nature, while you guys are in a community of love and faith. I really appreciate this community because it gave a place for SB Tan to find themselves, come together, and allow Lisa's place to be in existence in a safe place. You guys have provided that for us, and I can't thank you enough for it. SB Tan, just a quick note, was a group of families that had children that were experiencing gender differently than they might be expected to. Some were clearly what you might think of as an opposite gender. It's not the best terminology, but they might have been identified as boys and they were showing that they're girls, or vice versa. And their parents were having a little trouble connecting with other parents or some support system. They found themselves together, coming together as communities often do, and started Santa Barbara Transactive Network, which provided a lot of support for people who also had that experience as well, children as well as adults. And that really is rooted in this community. You guys provided that safe space and a place where people could find some love. I think that's an important goal, and I applaud you for that. Lisa's Place is a drop-in for trans people who just need some community, and it meets on this property, and it's excellent that we have that. Transgender Day of Remembrance. So in 1999, Nancy Mangiaroni and two others that I can't pull their names right in my head, a friend of theirs, Rita Hester, was murdered. She was killed in a very heinous way. She was stabbed in more times than I would care to say. And somebody who was once her lover tried to obliterate her, which is not uncommon in the trans world, unfortunately. It's not all safe. So Nancy and her friends decided they needed to memorialize their friend who was murdered because of transphobia, you might call it. I like to think of it as just fear and, I don't even have words for it because it's not really a phobia. It's not just a fear. This is way past that point. It's not just rooted in ignorance. There's a great deal more going on there. And so they decided they should have a memorial for anyone who was murdered in the year before, and their name should be read. It should be a time, because so many, there's so much to think about. No, what we found in those days when Rita, in 99, you think about that as not that long ago, and yet it was like the Dark Ages in a lot of ways, because a lot of times murderers of trans people were not even investigated. Their deaths were not investigated. They were just chalked off. They did it themselves. It was their fault that they put themselves in that position where they could be killed and murdered. And in fact, they enticed the murderer and created a sexual activity for them that was unacceptable, that stole their male sense from them. Didn't they deserve to die for that? That was actually the mentality we were dealing with in 1999. It still sort of simmers there, though we do have states like California. I don't live here by mistake, my friends. This is not an accident that I'm here. Not in Santa Barbara, not in California. I know some places in California are not going to be the place for me. I'm okay here, been here about 40 some odd years, I don't even know. But they needed to have a place where they could voice their outrage, voice their concern for this community that they're a part of in a way that had a sense of some positive thing. And one thing positive we wanted to do back then was make sure these people's names were heard, that these peoples were identified as human beings that we shared space with, that had everything that we just heard in the prayer that Julia Hamilton and Keir just read. They should be afforded all of that, and all of that was taken away from them in a violent way. So from October 31st until September, I think it's September 1st the next year, it's a year, they started to account for all the deaths that they heard of that were done by, that were committed by violence, and in a way that could be identified with this fear and loathing of trans people, and oftentimes by their people who they thought were loved ones, or at least sexual partners at times. So they started this thing called Transgender Day of Remembrance, and today it's actually I won't say celebrated. It's held in 185 different cities around the world, It's, I might have this wrong, but I think it's November 21st. Now, why would I have a problem with that? I mean, I started doing this probably, I don't even know how many years ago now, maybe, 99, 2000, probably 2005 or 4. I went to the courthouse. Okay, so I went to a Transgender Day of Remembrance at UCSB. A bunch of kids from college, not one of them were trans, but they wanted to have a Trans Day of Remembrance. So they brought out coloring books, and they had paper, and they had scissors and stuff, and it was like an arts and crafts event. So what they did was they were saying, show us on your arts and crafts what it means to you to have a Transgender Day of Remembrance. In the end, I thought this is not what we should be doing for a Transgender Day of Remembrance. There's a big chunk of this missing. So the next year I went down to the courthouse and I lit candles around the courthouse grass lawn, or the, so up the steps, and I held my own Transgender Day of Remembrance. I read the names, I did what we do at Transgender Day of Remembrance. I did it alone, and a bunch of people noted that they had Transgender Day remembrances, and they had all these people, and they had speakers and such, so I put one up that sounded like I had it too, except it was just me. And some of my friends saw it, and they said, oh, we had a Transgender Day of Remembrance. How come I didn't know about that? I said, well, now you do, and it's going to happen again next year. And next year, I think I did it by myself again. But the third year, I had like 5 people, and as we continued to do it, I think in the last year, we had 70 some people show up. We don't just read names anymore. We sometimes will have someone sing. Hather Hammett and her group, I can't remember the name of their group, Compassion Singers, something like that. They come in and they'll do a tune or two. They do a wonderful little bit of harmony. I tend to talk about my outrage and indignation. People have to suffer through that. And then we start to read the names. I think this past year there were 300 and some names, 346, I think. Way too many of them from the United States. But people would say to me afterwards, they say, you know, Lisa, this is so dark. This is so maudlin. Is this all we have? Death, destruction, memorialization? I would tell them, you know, for us, I mean, I was raised in a religious method, I guess. I could say more about that, but I won't. But I knew there were holy days of obligation. Days of obligation. And my thought was this was a holy day of obligation for trans people. It may not be a religion, but you should be obligated to not hit the microphone when you're talking. And they should come together and show this sense that we don't just lose people when we forget them. We don't just walk away and say it doesn't mean anything to us. It means something to us. And over time, more of these types of things have been investigated. More of this comes up. Some of this is from this Day of Remembrance. We get more focus from our social community, law enforcement, and everything. It's been somewhat helpful. But once again, it's a difficult thing to do. Every time it's coming up, I have a sense of anxiety that builds to that day. One of the things I will tell you that really helps is when your pastor, Julia Hamilton, comes in and says a few words at the end of that memorial, it's, seriously. So this past year, she couldn't make it, but she wrote out a whole thing. I got to say it. Never before, probably never after, have I sounded so good. I open my mouth and Julia Hamilton's words come out. I'm like, yeah. Sure, she wrote it, but I said it, huh? Yeah. So the response to that whole thing about, no, wait a minute, it's not being trans and having that experience in our communities. We have trans people in our communities. That's not just a maudlin, sobbing story. No, there are great success stories. Trans people have been involved in our communities forever, and they provide and contribute all the time. We have doctors, we have lawyers, we have Indian chiefs. I don't know if we have Indian chiefs or not, but we have in every segment of society, there are trans people trying to do their best to get through their day, do well, keep all this stuff functioning. And I'd like to make sure that somehow that's pointed out, that somehow we have an antidote to the darkness that we talk about, to the murders, to the lack of investigation, to all of that. How do we antidote that? Well, the way this plays out in a way is as we go through the year, imagine November comes along, because that's when the Day of Remembrance is. That's when the sun is disappearing more and more every day, less light, more dark, darker days every day as it comes forward. Then all of a sudden, the year passes, the spring starts to come in, the sun starts to take back its daytime, there's more light, things grow up out of the resting ground that is now rested for months in the wintertime. Now we see things spring up automatically, just as it is supposed to. We raise crops, but even if you don't, stuff grows up. Young are born. It's a point of rising up, and that's the time to bring in a day of visibility for trans people. And that's what started TDOV, Transgender Day of Visibility. And here in our community, we did one in 2019, I think it was either 2019 or 2018. And it was a very exciting time. Of course, then a funny thing called a pandemic came along. And that kind of put a damper on doing that. And now here we are. I want to say we're post-pandemic, but I don't believe that. I just think it's not quite as pointed. We don't have as many people dying right in our hands. It just seems like we really need to have a day of visibility again. I think along with the quieting somewhat of the pandemic and all that going into the past a bit, we need to rise up again and say, you know what? Transgender people are worthy and valuable, and we need to show that they're visible in our communities and that we should not be killing them. How's that? People say to me, Lisa, what can we do to help you? Stop killing us. It's pretty easy. That part's easy. Yeah? Yeah. Stop legislating. Stop legislating. You didn't even know there was a trans person when you got into office. You never knew there was a trans. Now you're saying you're going to legislate us out of the picture? Oh, come on. That's not right. That's just wrong.
Can I get an amen? Thank you so much.
I apologize for being late. Or looking like I would not come here like this if I could just walk right off the trail. My friend Kelly was supposed to be at the church. I'm like, not today.
You know, you missed the part of the opening when I said you are welcome just as you are, right? We said that, and we'll say it again. So hang in there with us. We have been rolling with it this morning with all kinds of technical challenges. So just hang in. We've got some wonderful stuff. And I want to invite Keir Zecker forward for the next wonderful piece of this morning.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. It is so heartening to see all these beautiful people here and hello out there online. I am so grateful for this community I'm part of. My name is Keir Zecker. I'm a member of your worship arts team, a co-facilitator for the youth group here, and I identify as a non-binary gendered human being. My pronouns are they, them, and being non-binary in gender, which for me means feeling both male and female, or sometimes neither male or female, has been a part of my selfness, of my awareness of who I am for as far back as I can remember. But our culture gave us only two choices. And so I lived my life in the female box with varying degrees of comfort and acceptance until 3 years ago when I started to see myself reflected in others who were speaking out about the spectrum of being transgendered. I found books and podcasts, music, living examples UU services that exploded my conception of how to describe gender, of how to describe being a person, expanding and deepening my understanding of what it means to be human, of how all of us have a richness beyond the binary to express. But last week, I admit, I was in a bit of emotional trough about this. I was maybe hearing one too many ladies or she, hers, or having to fill out forms that only have the 2 boxes. I was feeling like maybe people don't get why I want to be seen as non-binary. I felt a little invisible, a little in between, and the long road to growing our culture's language to be gender inclusive felt too long. And then as these miracles of timing happened, my dear friend Heather Stevenson sent me a video called What I Am, a Non-Binary Song by Shireen Amini. And Shireen Amini is a queer Puerto Rican, Iranian, earth-loving musician who lives in Oregon. And with their genuine, positive, creative expression, had me smiling, dancing, feeling my joy. It gives me this feeling of gender euphoria. And listening to the song was a reminder that what I get to do is celebrate my identity as I am, even if there aren't all the right words or understanding in our culture yet. Embracing what I've heard is called trans resiliency. Some of the books that Miss Angel read today had trans resiliency, that even if we don't get messages that we exist, no matter how hard it gets, we still show up as we are. I believe we all have that expression of self that can be expanded. We keep expanding our who we are as we journey to become. For when we walk in our truth beyond the limited culturally defined norms, we're in alignment with our joy. And I'd love to share the video with you. This is the video by Shireen that sparked my joy. I think we're a go on the video.
Excuse me, sir? Sir? I mean, ma'am? What are you?
I'm not a lady. I'm not a man. That's what I am. That's what I am. Call me a sister. Call me a mister. You're not right, but you're not wrong. I've been existing inside of a system that's trying to insist I'm something I'm not. But if that's what you're using to categorize humans, it may be confusing. But this is what I got. What I got. I don't got a bathroom. I can't check a box. I don't got a place in the language. So I'm telling you what I am by what I'm not. If your two genders are two extremes, I am both. I am neither. I'm the space in between. I'm not a lady. I'm not a man. That's what I am. That's what I am. Call me a sister. Call me a mister. You're not right, but you're not wrong. Out on the dance floor, feeling my feet. I like to follow, I like to lead. Down to the bedroom, I like to give it and take it. Regardless of how I look naked. And I assure you, what I am is ancient. I'm not making this up. Some cultures call what I am sacred, and I'm certainly not the only one. There are many more of me. You might be one of us. I'm not a lady. I'm not a man. That's what I am. That's what I am. Call me a sister. Call me a mister. Oh, you're not right. But you're not wrong. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. open your mind. Feel your discomfort with me not fitting in your paradigm. But I assure you, my gender's a work of art. How? It's a petal-lined path with the spear in its hand that always bows down to the heart. Got it now? I'm not a lady. I'm not a man. That's what I am. That's what I am. Call me a sister. Call me a sister. Oh, you're not right. You're not wrong. I'm a boy. I'm a girl. I'm telling you now, I'm the best of all worlds. Call me a sister. Call me a sister. Oh, you're not right. You're not wrong.
I get it.
So we're going to bring it home this morning with some more music, and I'd like to invite our drumming group to come forward and join us up here for our offertory. And then we'll sing together one final time as well. So please read with me the affirmation of gratitude and giving that is on your screen or in your order of service. Let us be grateful when we are able to give, for many do not have that privilege. Let us be grateful for those who share their gifts with us, for we are enriched by their giving. And let us be grateful even for our needs, so that we may learn from the generosity of others.
So we will be singing, and then there will be this moment where we will say Ashe, Ashe. Feel free to join us in that if you would like. Otherwise, feel free to stay quiet and enjoy it. So, thank you all.
And a reminder, our drumming group is open to all, so if you have a hankering for percussion, talk to Matthew and find out more and join in. We've got plenty of drums for everyone. You don't have to bring your own drum, just your own heart. Friends, on this Trans Day of Visibility, we are all called to be visible. In this moment, it is critical, because the trans community is our community. On this issue, in our Unitarian Universalist faith, there is no us and them. There is only we. We are the ones who need to be visible and vocal, unmistakable and unshakable in our insistence that this violence of language and law and litigation, this violence of erasure and eradication will not be tolerated. We will not accept this. Love and liberation are the goal, and we will not be silent. So, let us lead with compassion and love. Let us make it impossible to ignore us with our insistent, persistent, and faithful demand that each and every human being deserves the chance to flourish and thrive, and we will not give up until it is so. Let's rise and sing together one more time before we go out into this world. We are going to sing together, Building a New Way. 10:17, we're going to throw in some percussion this morning, so sing out. Let your body move around if you want to, and enjoy singing together. Number 1017 in the teal hymnal. Sometimes when you got a song in your heart, you just got to keep singing. So stay right where you are, and if you want to take hands with the person next to you, if you have their permission, if you want to put your hand over your heart, hold it open, however it is you get connected to each other and to the love that flows between us, among us, and beyond us. And as you go out into this beautiful and heartbreaking world, take a little bit of this revival that we had here this morning with you. And may the light of love shine upon you, out from within you, be gracious unto you, and bring you peace. For this is the day we are given. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. And let us call out a blessing. Call